All right, hey everybody, this is Daryl Palmer, or I'm getting my whole last name, how I'm going to be tracked down and killed. Okay, this is IDP from Life. I'm in the Trophy Lounge. Today I have another guest co-host. I have Kryptonite Dragon here joining me today. Hopefully my mic is better this week. What's up, Kryptonite?
Hey, not too much.
I don't know if you probably heard me. I gave my whole name in the introduction, so I'll probably be getting, I don't know, like death threats or something.
It's not too late to edit that out if you want to.
I'm going to leave it in. I'm going to live life on the edge. So, first off, you guys already know who Kryptonite Dragon is. If you want any more information about him, the actual first time I did a podcast where I was hosting, it was the 1 year anniversary for Trophies on PSN. And we got a little bit more into detail about Kryptonite Dragon's history as to how he kind of came about with TrophiesonPSN.com. So if you want to check that out, learn a little bit more about your creator, or the creator, not your creator. That's a little weird and dogmatic. Okay, so now move on to the announcements. So we do have a few announcements about the site. After all, Trophies Lounge is about the site. We have some services that have been shut down, which Kryptonite, you want to go a little further detail about that?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we a lot of people are assuming it has to do with SEO. It does not have to do with anything with search engine optimization. And in fact, it can hurt that a little bit to take services away because they're already showing when the search spiders crawl our site for a search engine. But what we're running into is we're at a point where we really want to start adding some proper ads, and we'd like to get Google AdSense on there. One of the things about Google AdSense is it's very they get a lot of just a ton of requests from websites. They block a lot of things naturally. There's a lot of tech sites and stuff they won't even allow to carry advertisements. They have basically a process where they send a bot your way that kind of scans your site, and it finds things that might not be appropriate. Mm-hmm. And as of right now, our site is not qualifying for Google AdSense. And we get some very generic responses, which is understandable because you got to understand, too, they can't tell you specifics about what is wrong. Right. If they tell you something is showing, and a clever programmer can just program it so that doesn't show, but still leave it on their site. So we're trying to go through the hoops, so to speak, to get proper ads up on the site through Google AdSense. It's the best alternative right now. I'm just shy of getting direct advertising from publishers and developers, which will come later down the road. And that way we can start making some money just from having ads up on the site. People just naturally visiting a page will be subjected to some minor ads. Nothing, no pop-ups or anything, no windows blocking any content, but maybe three ads on the page, some banner ads, maybe a small banner ad on the side, those kind of things, and would help the site. But until we can figure out what we have going off that's not working, we've turned a few things off. We've turned off the chat. Google made mention about chat services, anything that's chat related, not having ads anywhere displayed near it. Mm-hmm. So we removed that. The arcade has what's known as SWF. They're shockwave flash files. Sometimes Google isn't real happy with those and sites that have those. So we've blocked that. We've removed the other ads that we had, which weren't actually ads; they were links to the store. We've removed those. And we're just starting with a fresh slate. We're going to kind of update our privacy policy to include some things about cookies. Google has this double-click cookie. We're going to make sure that that's in there and people are being advised. Make a nice About Us page, things like that to make Google happy. Yeah. And see if we can't reapply and get accepted. Okay. So that's really what it's about.
So it's a strategic move, nothing like broke down. It was something that was done strategically.
No. Nothing that we're pulling, services or anything like that. We hope to add the chat and things like that. I don't know about the games in the arcade. It doesn't seem like a lot of PlayStation gamers like playing the arcade games. I don't know what it is. People are sometimes averse to trying to play games on a computer.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that at the very least, maybe we can put it in a different location and still offer it, but it might not be directly on the site. But if it's not being used and it's not, not a priority to people, then it's, ads are more important at this point, and we'll have to move forward with, trying everything we can to get those.
All right, cool.
So,
Another announcement is I kind of discussed this with you and also with Dante last week. We're going to be pre-recording this show, so a lot of people who like to listen to us live as well, to catch all our mistakes before we edit them out. We're going to be pre-recording. Me personally, I like to just leave it raw, so you will catch any mistakes that will be there. Like, you will have my first and last name in case you want to send me, I don't know, your ear or something in the mail. So that will be until further notice. Hopefully soon we'll start doing the live recording. But the reason why we're doing the pre-recording is because I am still looking for a co-host. Every week it is kind of like Russian roulette between Dante, Kryptonite, and a couple of other people on our staff on who is going to do the hosting with me this week. So I'm still looking for a co-host. So any staffers listening, even any members listening, I mean, if you feel like there's something you may want to do, reach out to me. Let's see what we can do, because this is, once again, your podcast for your website. And also, we do have some news article updates. So if you want to check out the news forum, there's a lot of interesting things happening this month. And actually, one of the interesting things that are happening this month, which there will be an article about it later on tonight, is the Microsoft announcement coming up May 21st. So they're going to be announcing the new Xbox console. So what do you think? What kind of features do you think that they're going to have? Because they went through this whole debacle with having always on, which, if you guys can understand what that means, basically when you have your Xbox 720 or whatever, I think that's a made-up name, the Xbox 720. But when you have your new Xbox, when you have it plugged up in your home, you have it connected to your internet system or your internet system, like 50 years old. When you have it connected to the internet in your home, basically the Xbox Infinity, that's the proper name, they will always be monitoring your account, basically. Your Xbox will always be connected to the internet. So even when you turn it off, it's technically still connected and sending and feeding information to Microsoft. Now, this was about a month ago that this was all going on, and then news reports came out that said it's not going to happen. I just read a news report that said it's still a possibility. So what do you think about that? I mean, that's obviously something PS4 is not going to do.
Well, there's a lot to be said about benefits, and I think people are okay with the idea of something being connected all the time. For those of you that are not aware of certain things with technology, like your modem and things like that can be always connected to the internet, and it's got a number of lights and stuff on it. And sometimes people are not even aware that those lights can change if someone's trying to connect. If it goes down, those lights can change and things, and it can let you know a little bit more information than you might normally be paying attention to. But it's not unheard of for people to offer a guest account on their internet provider, those kind of things. But I guess my point is, a lot of things are connected all the time, and you have to realize that. Like, you might carry around your cell phone all the time, and you may go into dead zones and it may disconnect, but generally it's staying connected all the time. There's not anything really wrong with that. More to the point is it going to be, collecting data and stuff like that on gameplay and sending that? Is it something that kind of maybe crosses lines for people where they're not happy with what they're getting out of it being always connected?
Well, I think that's what.
Does it drain your internet connection? You turn on your computer and your Xbox is always on, and so it's taking some of my bandwidth, for example.
Right.
So it depends on what you get out of it.
Because with that, and then also the other thing, now this, I haven't read anything recently about this. This is like a month ago, but it's basically all online play. Now, mind you, this is all speculation, people. This is 100% speculation, things that we've read from the months prior. We won't know anything, of course, until May 21st. But I read that it's going to be always online play, so you can't play your games even when you're offline. Just like if I have like the PS3, if I'm playing the PS3 or the upcoming PS4, if I have the hardware disc, pop it in, I can play. Even if I download a game, I can still play it without technically being online. Supposedly, that's the difference between the PS4 and the Xbox Infinity. You're going to always have to be online for it to technically work. Now, if that's the case, I don't think that's the case because that's so mind-boggling stupid. Because the internet goes down, things happen. But if that is the case, then I feel like they're putting themselves in a very small corner of the next gen, like the people who are going to purchase the next gen consoles.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It sounds like it's one of those things like, until we know the story, I hate to guess at it, but, not having played much Xbox, I've played a little bit. I can't imagine it getting that much different off of the scope of the way other games and stuff are going. Now, if you're talking about something where you don't actually have a disc and everything locally, that may make more sense, where if you don't actually have the games, you log in, you don't have to download anything, and you can start playing and you can connect, because that would help Microsoft get away from some of the challenges with discs and the storage capacity with Blu-ray that Microsoft doesn't have an answer for yet that I'm aware of. If it takes 7 discs to run a game that you can put on one Blu-ray, it might be better to say, well, this is available as digital content that you can access the internet and then play it, and developing a system that way. So
Even for the Xbox Infinity, they're not going to have the Blu-ray because that was like a license that PS3 or Sony basically still has, right?
Well, I've looked into all the things, and that's why I've stated, previously that I think Microsoft's kind of in a pickle where, one of the things about them, they develop software, obviously, and then they got into this hardware element with the consoles, but, even with the software and things that they've developed and the hardware that they've developed, there's something to be said about Sony having an advantage over developing stuff when they're in all these other markets. Branches of Sony are into, more specific things that are related to this. And, the DVD players that turned into the Blu-ray, televisions. There's a lot of things to be said about that. High-definition televisions, for example. And, their technology there, it overlaps a little bit. And when you've got a company like Microsoft that's into the software end of it, they have to develop a hardware system that can store much more information on a disk. And if not, the backup plan, it seems to me, is if they don't want to do that, is that they just, incorporate the Blu-ray into their device, which would mean that they would have to pay royalties to Sony. So in effect, every time you were buying a Microsoft's Xbox Infinity, some of that money would be going to Sony as well.
Cool. Smart.
But it's not, I don't think that's a failure as much as it is if they try to completely change the system and make it dependent on a whole new ideal of, we just won't have discs. That's kind of an off-the-wall thought process, I think. If you don't give people that option and you try to change the way gaming's been done for a very long time, on every system, think about it. You've put in a cartridge, a disc, computer, you put in a disc. Even if you stream something, most of the time you're storing it and it's on your computer and you can play it offline.
Right.
So,
we're definitely going to get to that place in like a decade or so. But yeah, if they try to do it just out the gate, out of nowhere, that would be, they might put this, I don't know, jump off the roof.
Yeah.
Of the Microsoft building. But
and it's clear we're moving that way too. We're moving that way. Yeah. We're moving towards a digital age where we'll probably store nothing. We'll probably, just log in and play it. Because you think about what a movie does is, like when you're playing a movie, it's just serving you the images of what's going on. There's not, it's already kind of almost pre-recorded, so it's just showing you the image. There's not anything processing-wise that needs to be shown in terms of a game. That all happens on your PlayStation when you're playing a game. It processes that information, then puts the picture to your television. So if you had a way to connect on the internet, play that game at Sony's headquarters, and just project that image like a movie, not unlike a movie, just projecting it. Mm-hmm. It makes sense to me that streaming of video game content would probably be a lot easier in that sense. But then, aren't I essentially playing a PlayStation at another location? I'm not actually playing it at my house. I don't actually use services here to play that game. I'm playing them, on some device that's then streaming me what's happening. So I don't know. There's a lot to be said about technology and where it's going and what that's going to do to gaming. I just don't know.
Yeah, I know whoever's in charge at Microsoft will probably give, I don't know, their left foot to get that Blu-ray license. Because I remember like when Sony came out and then Xbox came out and Xbox had the HD DVD. In my head, I'm like, oh, Sony, you idiots. DVD is where it's at. And it was like 6 months later, every HD DVD was on sale for like $1.50 at Best Buy. So I would be pissed off if I was Microsoft.
Well, and this is another thing that speaks to that, because if you go back and you look at the whole beta versus VHS, if you're old enough to know about that,
yep.
Pre-DVDs and Blu-ray discs and all this other stuff, there was cassettes. And the truth of the matter was beta was a better format. But what you had was it was so limited. It was one of those things where beta tapes and everything like that were specific. It wasn't licensed for everyone to use. And that's where I think that, one of the good things about Sony in terms of the Blu-rays, that they did it right. They made sure that it made it into the mainstream. They put it with the PlayStation. They put it out there very cheap for you to buy one. They made, strives to make sure movies could be put onto the Blu-ray very easily, so that, if you're a game or a movie publisher and you're publishing discs and stuff like that, and you've got, there's this old system that we already have and we already know and we have all the equipment for. Obviously, it's hard to get you to change unless Sony comes to you and says, "Hey, look, we'll do these Blu-rays. We'll do it, even at a loss starting off to introduce you to it, or here's the stuff that you need to put it on Blu-ray," and those kind of things. They did it right in getting it to the public and getting it out there so it became a standard, because that's really what you have to do. It's not so much being better, but getting it as a standard so that it becomes prolific in the industry. Mm-hmm. Everybody starts using it. And, now Microsoft, even if they come up with their own format, even if it's better, they have to break into that market. They either have to redo their process and do something completely different, buy a license to be able to put a Blu-ray into every Xbox, or, they have to proliferate the market with something new that, just has to take over Blu-ray. So, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen at all. If there's something out there that has more storage capacity than a Blu-ray, and it's marketable like a disc, I would be interested to see that. I don't think that's ever going to happen, though. At least not for the next, I don't know, maybe the next generation consoles will have something like that, but not this one. But I am excited to see what they're going to say. Like, I'll definitely be watching the event live to see what they're going to say, because, if you're a PlayStation fan or a Microsoft fan, this is still important to you. This is gaming news. Whatever they do, they're basically trying to show off like PlayStation did back in February. So it'll be interesting to see. Which, speaking of, do you think PlayStation messed up by coming out too early?
No, I think it was, the more I think about it, it was genius, because I think that they stirred it enough where it's like nobody, everyone's complaining about, we don't know what it looks like, there's no real finished final thing, but it drove a lot of things with people looking into the technology, and it was like calling out Microsoft. In my eyes, it was kind of like, here, take a look at this. because it wasn't anything like it's secretive, anything like that. It was like, these are what the stats are going to be. This is all the stuff that we're going to be able to do. And then, they still leave something for the E3 where it's like, they'll present what the actual console looks like. So there'll still be that hype, there'll still be that excitement, but at the same time, they kind of separated themselves from that event to say, we've got something big to show you. So I think it works. And I think Microsoft has no choice now but to kind of do something like this on their own and try to show what stats and stuff that they've got,
See,
give us some numbers.
I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I don't know, people are going to hate me for this, but I'm kind of like half and half. Like, yeah, PlayStation did great in rebuilding the software and new features. Like, we have a new controller with the touchpad, things like that. But in my opinion, even back in February, I'm like, oh, this is way too soon. Like, there's nothing else that can give me. I mean, I'm excited about this stuff. Like, all the new games you're showing me, but I want to see the console. So yeah, they did do that correct. And they do have that in their pocket for E3. But with Xbox Infinity, it's like, we're going to show you the software, this week, and then 2 weeks later, we're going to have, hopefully. So yeah, that is a good point. If they don't have the physical box, the actual hardware there at E3, then Xbox kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, but it's like 2 weeks before E3 though, so it makes it even more last minute,
Yeah, I mean, I guess now I am going to have to agree more with you. I mean, not say it out loud, because it is more, PlayStation did teased us a little bit more.
It's one of those things like on E3, if all things being considered, if both of them would have waited, Microsoft would have went first, and then Sony. And if they're both announcing some of the same kind of things, it would have been kind of like, Now it's almost like, Microsoft is kind of responding.
Yeah, I think it's clear that PlayStation 4 is like the pretty girl that you have to work for to get, and Xbox Infinity is setting themselves up to be like the okay girl, but you don't have to work that hard. Does that make sense? See what I'm trying to say here?
No, not really.
Okay.
But to me, it's
you gotta go out to the club a little bit more often.
To me, it's kind of like the first shot was fired by Sony. It's like they kind of like tripped it, like they poked and said, okay, now respond to that. It's kind of what it is to me. It's kind of like they were like, we're first because we've got everything ready. We're ready to go, except for the final look of it.
Yeah.
What's your response, Microsoft? Because it led to a lot of people, like, wow, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. What does this mean? Social media, what? But then everybody's like, oh yeah, well, what is Microsoft going to do now? So it's kind of like it just led right as a natural progression right into it. But don't get me wrong either. I really want to see Microsoft come out with something good. I do not want to see them, fail in the console industry by any means. So.
Well, no, I mean, the competition is needed, because whatever Microsoft does, Sony's going to have to try to one-up it. So, I mean, that's, the nature of capitalism, the nature of the market. But I do wonder what exclusives Xbox will have. I'm sure they're going to show some exclusives during their event, and that'll be interesting. Like, the main exclusives are pretty much over. Halo, Gears of War, those are done. So I wonder what they're going to come up with next.
Yeah, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, obviously they're going to have to come up with something, unique again. I would think that they would probably have to get a cornerstone shooter. Again, that they probably would try for something like that. A cornerstone shooter that would be, exclusive to Xbox. That almost seems like a given that they would try for. Mm-hmm. There's not anything really. I mean, the makers of Halo have now switched gears, and that's not going to be exclusive to Xbox. So, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. It's another question that's left hanging in the air.
Yeah. Speaking of, Gears of War, I actually just got done writing an article about the lead designer, Cliff Bleszinski.
Uh-huh.
And he was just talking, he was in an interview, which I put a link and all that in my article, but he was speaking kind of candidly about, who's going to win the next generation console. And he didn't come out and say PS4 is going to win, but basically he was saying whichever system gets ahead of this social media or social connecting, they're the ones that are going to win. So as soon as I read that, I just thought about the share buttons for the PS4, because that was something that was huge. And I mean, I'm sure there's some type of patent on it where Sony can't directly copy it. So I mean, with that being said, you have someone who, he made his fortune building games and building a series for Microsoft, and he's saying just kind of in the open, hey, if you get the social connecting, the social media down for your system, then you're going to win the next generation, and that's what this generation is about. They're all about connecting. So that, to me, was a good sign for PS4, and this isn't having to come out yet.
Yeah, and now picture, if Microsoft puts a share button on there and it's in part of their press conference. That's part of what I was talking about. Like, look how that looks.
Yeah, that does make sense.
It's like who got there first, who was, I don't know. I think if anything's the same, they're going to be accused of copying Sony or trying to keep up with Sony. And with the questions lingering about, storage, Sony already has Gaikai and has, the streaming element and stuff down. So even if they do that, I think Sony's going to work that so that it includes that also, while still being able to play offline games. So even if they were to do something like that, no matter what format that they come out with, it's going to be, it sounds like it's already being accomplished by Sony. If the only thing that really is lingering out there right now at the PS4 is backwards compatibility and support for PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games.
That would be amazing.
And if Sony is able to lock that down when the console comes out or shortly thereafter, I mean, I can't I can't picture anything else that you would want that you'd be like, well, Xbox is going to have that and Sony's not.
Yeah. The thing that worries me, though, if they do have backwards compatibility, that's obviously going to raise up the cost. So, I don't know, it's kind of like a catch-22.
Well, I mean, maybe.
If they make it,
it's a Gaikai service.
Yeah, if I say if they make it digital, then I'm all for that. And it's like a service that you have to buy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like $29 a month or something to play all the games from 1 to 3. I'll be down with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is it going to be all games? Is it going to be... I mean, there's a lot to still work out there logistically. But, really, no matter how they do it, even if it's a fee to use the Gaikai service, I think it still would be very successful if it was reasonable. But, because it's an option. If you don't want to play past games, then you don't have to. I mean, most people that are, they're going to already have their PS3, for example. It doesn't mean your PS3 is gone, so if you have PS3 games, you play your PS3 on it. But I guess it's a matter of, costs and stuff like that for Sony to implement things like that. Is it going to be a Gaikai service where they have everything available and you can just play it and they can say, well, you purchased that before, or you can show you purchased that before, so now you can play it and stream it through here for free.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
If it's set up that way, I mean, whoa. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, if you had... that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah. But the thing that's going to be, I mean, at least was kind of... This, once again, people, these are rumors. Oh, wait, quick side note. About my microphone. So I got a new one. I'm sure you will let me know in the comments, but I will be looking at the comments. Hope it sounds better. If it doesn't, I have no idea what I'm going to just, I guess, get a new one, get another one, try again next week. But the thing, the rumor that I was going to say that I read was Microsoft is going to offer an option where you can basically return your Xbox 360 back into Microsoft, and they give you a rebate to buy the new system. I don't know if that's true. I don't know, anything, of course, but I mean, I would like to see something like that for PlayStation, to be honest with you.
Well, provided that you can play PS3 games, I mean, that's the thing for me. It's like, if you're losing anything and you're not able to, like, say the Xbox Infinity comes out and there's things you're not able to do that you could on the Xbox 360, plus you have your games that already play on there, what would be the benefit of turning it in? Because it's not going to be you're not going to get your full amount you paid for it. If you get like a $50 discount or something, is that going to be worth it?
In all honesty, I mean, you're thinking very, very smart. When the game systems come out, that is not how people are going to be thinking. Like, I know I think like that all the time. Like, when I got my PS3, I wanted the backwards compatibility. So, I mean, with that, of course, I was winning. So I definitely sold like all those systems. But when the PS4 is coming out, I'm even looking at, I'll just sell my PS3 and just get a PS4. I paid, so far all the games I wanted to play. And the upcoming games I do want to play are also coming out on the PS4. So,
yeah.
Which I think that's also smart because not a lot of people are going to be able to buy the PS4 immediately. So I'm sure they would still want to play, Beyond Two Souls and things like that. So good on you, Sony.
Yeah. And I bought the PS3 and I thought the same thing. I would be playing my PS2 games all the time. It dwindled off pretty quick where I went to, not playing any PS2 games. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still play, yesterday, I was playing Final Fantasy 9 on my PS3. Like, sometimes I just feel nostalgic, but not enough to where if I go back in time, I would have got a regular PS3 and maybe kept my PS2. That probably would have saved me, money at the time. But whatever. So,
yeah, I still keep my hands on my fats too. I like my old fat 60 gigabyte. I've sent it off for repair and all that so that I hang on to it, so I can actually still play PS2 games. But
have you ever got the yellow light of death on your PS3?
Yes. I actually used to work on PlayStation systems as, I would say, a hobby, but it wasn't really a hobby as much as it was something that interested me. I ended up with a yellow light of death, and I figured out like a large percentage, probably 70-80% of the yellow light of death is due to the motherboard overheating and kind of tripping the system to say that it's getting too hot and we can't turn it on. A lot of that has to do with there's a type of protective putty that's put around a lot of the insides that can become very dry and can actually kind of overheat and lose its plasticity and kind of crumble away, and therefore the heat doesn't really transfer that well. There's also heat pads and things that can be in there that are placed in when the PlayStation's built, in most countries anyway. And, the soldering joints and stuff like that really can, the same kind of thing, they can heat up and they can kind of lose their flavor and their ability to, connect and transfer data and stuff well. So when I experienced my first yellow light of death, I actually took that PlayStation apart. I broke the seal on it, took it apart, did a whole bunch of things right up to the point where you can actually take, the motherboard and all that and actually heat it up in the oven. And I know it sounds weird, but I've actually done a couple of methods like that. I did a method where you heat it up in the oven. It kind of resets the solder a little bit. I've done some stuff where I've heated it with a hair dryer, a heat gun on high heat setting, and kind of remelted those solder joints and stuff like that to get the contacts and stuff a little bit tighter. And then, put back in all the things that were needed for the heat in the proper place, including, the paste, the thermal paste. And, I've done that for quite a few, dozens of PlayStations, to the point where, I fixed mine, and it worked for about another year. And then I tried it again, and I had one of them that would not restart, and I simply sent it off to Sony. And Sony said, "Yep, it's in perfect condition." And instead of them fixing it, they actually sent me another model that they had already refurbished, which is what they often do as a procedure.
Yeah.
And it cost me, I don't know, it was like $100 or something like that to do that.
See, your experience is completely different from my experience. I quote unquote got the yellow light of death, but I just turned it off. I walked away for like an hour, turned it back on, and it was working.
Yeah, sometimes it works. There's a couple things that cause the yellow light of deaths that I've learned. And believe me, I've bought them off of eBay for, you can, at the time back when I was doing that, you could buy $40, you could buy somebody's broken PlayStation. Mm-hmm. They would say it's got the yellow light of death or it doesn't turn on. And I was able to fix a majority of those. And even the ones you can't, you relist them on eBay. It got to the point where I was like reselling them for more than I was buying them for. I was fixing them and selling them for a couple $100. They were perfectly good. They would last for, another year or two. You just list them as a refurbished PS3. And I made enough money to buy myself a big screen TV. So I was just kind of doing that every once in a while. You spend a couple hours taking it apart and doing the heating process and whatnot. And, I made a few $1,000s to buy myself a big screen, a 55-inch TV.
Right.
And, the big thing about it is like I've learned that there's that the motherboard issue was something that it happened a lot on the old Fats and everything like that, where it's just over time they heat up and those thermal compounds and stuff break down. They get real dirty in there. There were some of them that I opened and it was like, well, there's no way it's not heating up because it's got so much dust. It's almost like so much kind of crammed in there around all the elements that it's like there's no way it couldn't be heated up. It's like somebody having chunks of their hand in there touching it or something, because that's how much the dust and everything had built up. And it was a lot of them were just simply like you clean them and turn them back on and they work perfectly fine. Or the other thing that sometimes would happen is like the power process would have some kind of fault in it. A lot of times the electrical system with the switch in the cord and everything like that could burn out. And then the other thing that sometimes occurred, which you could usually tell by the type of breakdown it was having, was the disk tray, which was a little bit more complicated and not something that I liked to deal with, because the disk trays were linked with the motherboards in a number of ways. But some people got to where they were changing out lasers and whatnot in them, get them working real easily again. So, it's not anything real complicated to fix. And then push comes to shove, you send it off to Sony for $100, and you've got a working PlayStation. So
that's good though. I mean, that's good.
Something I used to do, and not as bad as everyone thinks. I think their failure rate was probably pretty low, considering my first PlayStation I left on all the time and played all the time, and it lasted a pretty damn long time when I think about how many hours it was on and days it was on. It was the equivalent of playtime over, even if you did something like that for a year, but it gets 3 times as much use, then it lasted 3 years.
Yeah.
So
I use mine for everything.
I don't know. They're pretty reliable.
As soon as I wake up,
the newer ones are even better. The older systems were, I think the 80 gigabytes and 60 gigabytes and stuff, the original ones were a lot more fallible than the ones now with the Slims.
Yeah, as soon as I get up, my PS3 is like on. So, hang on.
You there, Daryl?
Yeah, still here. See, it's my mic again. Hang on, people.
Because we can't hear you, buddy.
Well, if you guys can hear me, and maybe he just can't hear me.
But anyway, to say a little bit more, since you are away or you're having some kind of technical difficulty there, to say a little bit more about the Xbox. the Xbox.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
If I had a gun,
the Xbox is supposed to be called the Infinity. Originally, they were talking about it being the 720. And what's unique about it is like throughout the whole console market, you have to have that competition, and I think that speaks to we want to see some successful things out of Microsoft for the very selfish reason that we want Sony to always be pushed to make a better and better console. And then the only thing I would be afraid of is like any of these consoles turning into anything related to close to a PC. I've said this before that I think that what I like about consoles is just being able to put a disc in and play it. There's no upgrading. There's no I have a better video card than you, so it looks better. There's no I have to go upgrade my Windows Service Pack 3 or something so I can play this. It's just it's kind of a plug and play system. You put a disc in and you can go. And if they get away from that and they go too much towards a PC, which obviously Microsoft would have leanings to do, that would be sad. And I would.
I don't think they will though. I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either. With the exception of some of the devices that connect to it, they might get a little crazier in that regard. But more to the point is we don't want to see Nintendo dropping out of the race. We don't want to see Microsoft dropping out of the race. So I look forward to them giving us something good, and eventually I'd like to, get an Xbox and of course have an Xbox site related site. So I'm not by any means. I'm not a, you could say I'm a Sony fanboy, but just because that's my preference. But either way, I mean, I don't have anything against Microsoft. I want to see them succeed. I really do. And regardless of what they come out with on this next console, I really truly hope that they've got something good to present forward. That they've got an answer to the Blu-ray. That they've got an answer to the social media. So.
I mean, they definitely will. If they spend all this time making a new console and come up with these ideas, but not answering the questions like, okay, well, we don't have the Blu-ray license, what are we going to do? I think that would just be dumb on their part, and I don't think that they're dumb by any means. So I think they're definitely going to have some type of answer. And I honestly believe they're going to look more towards the downloading of games. I mean, yeah, it would be risky, and I just said earlier, it would be stupid to just immediately go into downloading all your games. But that might be the easiest and quickest way to, fight the Blu-ray. At least for like big title games that will take, 3 discs to play, like your Skyrims and things like that. That might just be for certain games. Like they might announce that. That for certain games, we're going to offer a downloadable option, and then give the benefits as to why. Which some people may not like it, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. But wrapping up from that, once again, people, will be May 21st. So just keep your ears to the ground. You can also check.
Listen to me.
Yep. Actually, the next time we record this podcast, it will be the day after. So we'll probably talk about it a little bit again, just to see how the specs compare to the PS4. And I'm sure one of us from the news team also write about it as well. But I just have a couple of questions since we're about to wrap up here soon. These are questions that are always kind of on my mind every time I'm, watching a movie or something.
Okay.
But which movies should be made into a game or have like a game counterpart?
That's certainly a good question, and I think that with the recent thing with making games and movies kind of go together, I think it's a really cool concept to test out. But I've always thought that one of the things that makes games really good or movies really good is getting into a character, getting having a character that means something to you. What I mean by that is, if you watch a series of movies that you like, maybe you like John McClane and those kind of movies, and you have that character there, and he's got a personality and stuff that you like, and you enjoy kind of following that in an action movie. I think that's kind of synonymous too with the better games for me are the ones that have a character. If you're playing Uncharted and you like that interaction with Sully and that witty humor there, and those characters feel more developed. Those are the kind of games that I enjoy playing versus you're just just a character, a nameless character playing a game. So I think I get into more games that are character driven. So I would say that movies that are also that are more to my liking and are character driven would be better for making games out of. It's
So
naturally.
name one.
Well, I'm not naive enough to think too that there's not a certain genre that's out there because I like a lot of action movies. I like comedy movies, but at the same time, comedy movies wouldn't make a very good game because you need some kind of action. You need some kind of protagonist thing that you're fighting against. So I would go back to some of the action movies and stuff that I like. And I'm a fan of like Die Hard, those kind of movies. In terms of like television, I watch like The Walking Dead and things like that are some of my favorites, which they've obviously already made a video game out of.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that one's already made for you.
So, but I would like to see something like that. I would love to see something with some of our favorite action stars, made into a movie and have them voice it and have some unique dialogue so that they were almost an extension of the movie. That would be really cool.
Like, they did that for The Matrix, Enter the Matrix. That was a PS2 game, and some of the cutscenes were from the second movie, Revolution. Was it Revolution? Oh, that's the third movie. Anyway, Matrix Reloaded, the second movie. Some of the cutscenes in the game were directly related to the movie, like Jada Pinkett's character, Niobe. You know how when I don't remember the actor's name. I can't remember the name. Morpheus. The Morpheus was fighting on the two trucks, and he got knocked off, and Niobe came out of nowhere with that car. You know this part? Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually in the game. You have to play up to that part, and then it shows up to that cutscene. It's directly connected with the movie. Like, that was pretty smart. So I would play something like that, of course, if it is like correlated with the movie. Or I wrote a forum recently, just a topic, just playing around. How I just moved, and there was like 10 movies that I forgot about, but I'm like, I love these movies so much. I would never part with these movies ever. The movie Seven.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's a good movie.
If they made that into a video game, like David Cage style, that would be the best day of my life. I would love to play that game. I would love to play a game like that where it's completely suspenseful. It does have your action, but it has like your crime solving, your puzzle solving. That would be great. Somebody should definitely get into that.
Cool. Yeah, you almost need a thriller or an action movie. That's the only things that really make sense. And
yeah, I mean, you had a good point. You gotta have your protagonist. You gotta have a plot, of course. But I don't know, like especially after playing Heavy Rain, like I just keep thinking like, okay, it is possible. There will one day be a movie. There will one day be a video game that's like, you're trying to find a serial killer and things like that.
And I think there's a disconnect there too. If you point it out, I think that people realize it. Like, there's a lot of superhero movies get made into, video games all the time. Then the other thing is like Disney will hit Disney films and do like kids games. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if there was something a little bit more in the normal realm. A normal action movie, seeing a game screen and getting some involvement there. And I think we're moving towards that. I think we'll get towards, more involvement with Hollywood in video game production, more big time actors doing voiceovers. It's definitely coming.
I think Ellen Page is really knocking the door down on that. Like, the French actress did it in David Cage's Heavy Rain, but the fact that Ellen Page, like an actual Hollywood actress, is involved in a game that's like a 1,000-page script. It's just as physical as any of the action movies she's been in, like X3 or whatever. I think that's going to break down the door for upcoming games. People are going to be more willing to sign up for it. other question, really quick, we are running out of time, is kind of related to the question just asked, kind of, but which gaming character would you want to have as a roommate? Which I already know mine. I think about this
As
all
a
the time.
roommate,
Yep.
like, are you assuming that, like, if I don't live with my family and I'm, like, living on my own kind of thing?
That, or if it was like in a crazy world where it was like your best friend from high school. Like what, and he had to move in with you and your family.
um, I don't know. What comes to mind is Nathan Drake, actually. And I think the reason why is because, like, if I was kind of in that alternate reality, I think it would be cool to have, to have a roommate that was into, like, adventuring and doing that kind of stuff and finding treasure and stuff like that. I would certainly probably want to play a support role. I probably wouldn't want to get shot at as much as he gets shot at and go
I was about to say, yeah, and killing people.
going treasure
He kills
hunting.
a lot of people. He kills a lot of people. But
But
speaking of,
the Sully, maybe I could be the Sully, to Nathan Drake in some regard or something like that. I don't know.
just fly the plane on the weekends.
And I certainly knew some cute women, right? So.
Exactly. Speaking of, I played Uncharted. Like I told you and Dante a long time ago. Like I didn't really get into Uncharted 3. So it's just been in my house collecting dust. So right before I moved, I was like, all right, I have about 6 hours left on this game. That's how much I didn't play. The game's only like I think 13 hours long. But I was like, I got 6 hours left. I had the day off. So in my apartment with like everything around me, all my junk around me that I was trying to move, I just sat down, played the game straight. I was utterly disappointed.
Really?
Yeah, I was. Like I played the first Uncharted, I was amazed. The second one was like 3 times better than the first one, and then this one I was like, okay. Like it had a good story, but this. I don't know. Like when I got done, it was one of those things where it's like that's the end. So, I mean, there's no spoilers. If you haven't played Uncharted 3 yet, you're even worse than me, and I have no sympathy for you. But it was like you killed the lead henchman. He was like your final boss battle, and it was I don't know. It was just lackluster. Like there was no excitement.
Okay. Well.
But in saying that, answer to the question I asked you, if I had to pick a gaming character, I have thought about this because it would save me money. I live in an all-electric apartment. I would be roommates with Cole McGrath from Infamous and Infamous 2. Just thinking about the money I would save by having him just hold the cord to my computer. My battery can charge.
But what if he shorted everything out all the time?
I'll throw a glass of water on him. He'll flip out for a moment, maybe pass out. You're done. But I mean, hey, that's him or Sly Cooper, because then it says spend my money on paying rent and paying bills. I can have Sly Cooper go rob a bank, and we're good to go. So I guess any Sucker Punch character, I guess, would be my roommate. I just realized both of those two are from Sucker Punch.
Yeah. Well, as long as their unique worlds didn't come with that.
I would not mind Cole's. Sly, whatever. But
Well,
Cole's,
if you had people trying to kill him and all that other stuff, it's certainly not somebody you'd want as a roommate.
That is very true. That's very
so.
true. All right, guys. So that is the show. If you have any comments, which I am sure you do, please put it in the forum. I will be reading it. I hope and pray this week my mic sounds better. If it doesn't, this might be the last podcast you will hear from me. I'm going to jump off of my roof and take it from there. Maybe I die, maybe I don't. We don't know. I want to thank our guest, Kryptonite Dragon. And also, once again, if there's anyone out there, staff members, actual members of the site who you want to maybe be a guest on the podcast, or if you have anything to offer to the podcast, send me a private message. We'll try to work a time out and see what we can do. Hope to hear you in the forum. Also, about the forum, I'm always looking for an interesting forum topic. So, if you have anything you want to talk about, it doesn't have to be technically game related. I mean, it can be a kind of ground game, like the questions I just asked about, who would you be a roommate with, things like that. Any forums any topics you want to throw out there, throw them out there. Because I am looking at the forums every day for something very interesting. Chris, can I drag anything you want to say in the show?
Nope. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Thank you for being on. All right, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you later. Talk to you later. You know what I mean.